everybody, how are you today? Thank you for joining me. I'm Lori Bates and I am with Create Better Health Snap Ed program, and we do our lessons in conjunction with USDA recommendations, and we're affiliated with USU Extension. Yay! Go Aggies, right? Well, gosh, we're going to have some really good weather here in Utah for the next week, and I am excited. I don't think I've ever been so excited to have spring be here as I am this year for some reason. I love spring more than I do winter, but I love the different seasons for sure. All right, well, as you can see, I wanted to go over how to use your slow cooker just a little bit. If you need to go into more depth, go on to USU Extension and in their search bar put slow cooking, and then you can get lots of more information if you need it. Or better yet, there's a little book that comes with your slow cooker. Read it. It's really, really important. And in using your particular slow cooker, and it'll give you some recipes usually and some really good tips. So do that. All right, well, nothing says soul lifting like the smell of something cooking in a slow cooker when you get home, or when you are home. It's going to make you hungry all day long. Today we're going to do ham, hock, and beans, and from a girl that grew up with it, I'm here to say yes, it's so yummy. So give it a try. All right, so white beans need to be simmered in some stock and ham and fresh herbs or dried herbs. And it's simply delicious and gratifying on a cold night. And we're still in, the 20s at night, so our nights get kind of cold right now. So it's worth the time and effort to do this. That smell when you walk into the door from a long day at work, you just can't beat it. The first thing that you want to do, okay, is we're going to take a pound of dried beans. A pound of dried beans is just one of these little packages like this, okay? And you're going to use the whole package for this recipe, but for me, I will half it just for myself. So I have a little bit to freeze and some to eat as well. Okay, so then you're going to take and rinse these, and then you're going to put them in for every cup of beans, we're going to put about 3 cups of water, or a couple inches at least above the beans. And it looks somewhat like this. These have been soaking all night long, and so they used to be way down here, and they've of course absorbed some of the liquids and have gotten bigger. But about 2 to 3 inches above your beans would be great. That will work. So we're going to go ahead and drain this now since it's been soaking, and then we're going to cook it for about 10 minutes to 30 minutes in clean water to get those gases out of the beans that we don't want. All of those beans rinsed and ready to go, we're going to put them in a pan, and we'll get those cooked here in a minute. Okay, so while we're waiting for that, I want to kind of go over the crock pot a little bit. You'll see in here on the very bottom is where your element for the crock pot is. And so whenever you're cooking things, you need to layer it according to that, because most of the heat's going to be on the bottom. And that's why you'll see if you do big chunks of potatoes and carrots for your roast or whatever you're making, you're going to want to put those first and then put the meat on top, because they're root vegetables. They take longer to cook, especially if they're, you know, good size, like 2 inches. If they're going to be little like these, then I wouldn't put them on the bottom. I would just put the meat down first and then put these on top. Or canned vegetables could be on top as well. Okay? And keeping this clean is a good idea. You can take a little bit of steel wool and that will help keep this clean. But don't put like gobs of water in here. Just a little bit of water on your steel wool and kind of clean this up a little bit inside. And then you're going to want to rinse it, but don't put all this electrical stuff in water. And then again, go to your manual and see what they say, because your crock pot might be different than the one I have. All right, and then there's the crock in here, and this is a ceramic crock, and when it gets hot, it can crack if you put it in cold refrigerators or sinks or cold water after having it being warm and cooking all day. So let it cool all the way down before you put it in any water, or never put this in the refrigerator because it's too tall, for one thing, for food safety, and from hot to cold it'll just break it. So I don't know if you've done that before, but I've heard a lot of scary things happen when women have taken this from their heating unit and just to the table, and then they put it back into the fridge. And don't do that, because it's just not a food safety good thing. Okay, this cleans up if you spray it first, really easy, or you could use a slow cooker liner, and those are awesome. You just put them in, they're like a baggie, a special bag, not just any baggie, and you just line it and then you put all your stuff in. It's way, way good. Or if you can't afford those, I think they're like, what, $3 or $4 for about 5 of them. You can spray these with a little bit of cooking spray, or you could wipe it down with a little bit of oil, because I don't know if you've ever not done that and then you've been there at the sink, or you've let this soak as long as you have let it cook. So 6 to 8 hours trying to get this thing clean. So hopefully those will help you out. All right. So we got that all ready. And then we have our lid, and the lid just goes untight on top. It just kind of places itself on top. There's no locks or anything like that, because it's going to slow cook all day long and the moisture needs to get out somewhat. On this one we have a low, a high, and a warm temperature gauge. And if you're going to on low, you're looking at 6 to 7 hours. And then on high, you're looking at 3 to 4 hours. And then when you're all done cooking and you just want it to keep itself warm, you can put it on warm. And that would work too. Also, your leftovers, you shouldn't cook leftovers in your crock pot. The safety danger zone of 165 degrees of what your leftovers should be within 2 hours just doesn't work with this. And so it's important to warm those. You can keep it warm in here. So you could warm it on the stove, in the oven, or in the microwave first, and then keep them warm in your crock pot. That would work. But not just from cold leftovers into the crock pot. It's just not a good idea. Okay? All right, so then we have got our beans all soaked, and then when you're doing vegetables in the slow cooker, I think it's always a good idea. He's saying, oh my goodness, we're gonna dirty another dish, but to me it's worth it. So you need to kind of decide what's good for you. Okay, so I'm just gonna saute these celery, carrot, and onions up. And then I'm going to add my garlic in there as well. And that's 3 cloves of garlic that go in there. And the carrots, onions, and celery, the measurements on those are 3 celery stalks, 2 large carrots, 1 small onion, and then we're going to do our ham. And then the stock that we're going to use today is 7 cups, or in my case, the 3.5 cups. And then you can use vegetable stock, you can use chicken, whatever you would like. And if you've made your own, then, oh my goodness, for sure, use that. That would be way yummy. And 2, when you are caramelizing garlic, it does much better, I think. The flavors seem to marry a little bit better when you are doing that. And it only takes a couple of minutes. I was able to buy a ham hock at the store, and so look for them. Or if you can't see them, ask your butcher for them and see if they don't have some. But oh my gosh, I love them this way. They're so yummy when they come off the bone, and all the flavors of the bone and the meat just are dynamite. You just can't beat this flavor. But if you don't have this, you can always add just like ham steak and cut it up. You could put that in there as well. And if you don't want it to cook the whole time, then put it in the last hour, maybe the last 2 hours, and that'll be good. But this ham hock will take the whole slow cooking for the whole day. So about 6 to 7 hours. Okay? Alright, so this looks like it's just about there. Isn't that pretty? It's pretty pretty. And I did put a little bit of oil in here, but you could put just water or a little bit of, let's do that. Let's do a little bit of stock in here just to kind of steam these a little bit. Ooh. And it makes your kitchen smell really yummy. Just a little bit longer on those, and then we'll get our beans on. Okay, so we're going to take our lid off. And I'm going to start putting my stock in. So 3.5 is about the size of this, which is 32 ounces, you know, give or take a little bit. I'm just going to use the whole thing so I don't have anything extra. So yeah, 4 cups. Good enough, right? Doesn't have to be totally exact. And then, now that our vegetables are all nice and yummy and steamed, I'm going to go ahead and put those in. Oh gosh, I love sauteed vegetable smell. Put our beans on, and then we're going to get those boiling for 10 minutes to 20, even up to 30 would be okay. And what it does is it takes something out of it called, the toxin is really a long word. So I'm going to look it up, and I hope I don't hammer it too much. It's called phytohemagglutinin. And it's a toxin that's in beans, and so that's why it's important that we soak them beforehand. And when we're soaking them, you're going to want to soak them for at least 5 hours. And then discard the water, like I said, rinse it, and then we're going to boil it for up to 30 minutes, 10 to 30 minutes, to get the rest of the toxins out of the beans. Or you could do like some of us do when we're in a hurry, and that is go to your pantry that you have beans in, I hope, and use the canned beans. And make sure you rinse your canned beans first, and then add them into your crock pot. I'm really, really bad about doing this, and that is you get the lid on, and during the day you want to look in there and you want to stir. And then you want to look in there again and you want to stir because it smells so good and you are hungry. So, but try and not lift your lid, because every time you lift the lid, it needs 30 more minutes to cook. So just think of it this way, if you're really hungry, that if you don't lift the lid, you're going to be able to eat sooner. If you lift the lid like 2-3 times, you're looking at an hour and a half more. But if you have an hour and a half more that you need, then I guess it will be okay. All right. Slow cookers take the toughest piece of meat and make it juicy and tender. And you're also keeping within your budget, which is nice. And so make sure that you're searing your meat, meaning you take it in a saute pan or a cast iron pan and go ahead and season it a little bit with salt and pepper. And then on high heat, you're going to want to put that meat in a hot pan and then sear both sides, and that's it. And then put it in your crock pot. Because what happens is it seals the juices in that meat, and it's just yummy. It just tastes good. So I've known people to not sear their meat, and it works, but I think it tastes better when you do sear them. Putting chicken with their skin in the crock pot is not probably a very good idea. It gets rubbery, and it's very slimy and tough. So de-skin your chicken before putting it in your crock pot. And also, chicken breasts sometimes don't do really well in the crock pot unless you put a lot of moisture and whatnot with it. So make sure you're putting it in with bone. The bone has a tendency to help with that, and so that's always a good idea to do chicken with bone and no skin. Some things that sometimes have a hard time in the crock pot is dairy and cheeses, stuff like that. And putting those the last 30 minutes is key, okay? So that it doesn't curdle and doesn't separate and cause problems. Cheese can be added the last 10 minutes, but you can add like your milks and sour creams and things like that, you know, the last 30 minutes, up to 10 minutes-ish. And then your stuff will be super duper. Pasta shouldn't be put into your slow cooker until the last 20 to 30 minutes. Because otherwise you're going to have mush. And then I want to talk a little bit about seasonings. Dry seasonings can go in to your crock pot, you know, first thing or halfway through. But your fresh herbs need to be the last hour to the last 30 minutes because they are fresh. And the oils come out easier. And if you do it all day long in here, it just becomes bitter. So it's really important if you're going to do fresh herbs and spices that you do it the last, 30 minutes or so. And then the dried, even if you do dried halfway, it's good. It's much better than the whole time of 7 hours. And they have a tendency also to get a little bitter near the end. So even halfway through, if you can. If you can't, then go ahead and add them at the beginning. 1.5 teaspoons of salt and pepper for the full recipe, and 1/4 of a teaspoon of ground pepper. And that's like a kosher salt. So a bigger salt if you would like. If you don't have it, then just add what you have. All right, and then we have thyme and a bay leaf. Bay leaves need that whole time in the slow cooker. Just remember to take it out because it shouldn't be eaten. It's purely for flavor, so we're going to put that in there. And oh gosh, that smells so good. I love bay leaf. And then I'm going to wait on my parsley until it cooks all the way to the 1 hour before I want to eat, because it's so tender and it releases its flavors a lot easier. So I'm going to wait on that. All right. This is boiling now, and so we're going to have those ready in no time. Be sure to cut your celery and onions so that they are somewhat similar in size. That's really important, so that when they are cooking, that they all are uniform and they all will cook at the same rate. You can freeze ham bone soup later. I'll put a link below in the comment section of the guideline sheet that you can use at www.foodsafety.gov/food-safety-charts, and I'll have that all down there, so you can just click and go. All right, and how long can you keep it? You can keep it about 3 to 4 days in the refrigerator, but then you can freeze it for about 3 months. Okay. Canned beans are a time saver, like I said before, and you won't achieve the same depth and flavor, but they work just fine. A little additional water to the soup if you want, if it ends up being too thick near the end of your cooking time, and that will be perfectly fine. Or if you have a little bit of broth left over, you know, you can use that too. And then get your bowl, because it's going to be yummy. Back to the labels. A way to be sure to get the most nutritious options for your food dollar is to use your food nutrition label. And understanding your label can seem overwhelming, but with practice and looking at them quite frequently, that will make you a better shopper and help you make more nutritious decisions. Now, it can also help you in a healthier diet, because you know what's going into your diet. And rinse it, take it off the heat, of course, and grab it with because they get kind of heavy, so make sure you grab it with a pot holder or something. Take those drained beans, and we're just going to put them right in our crock pot. And after that, everything's put in. We're going to take our ham hock and just put it right down in the center of all that stuff, right here. And that's it. And then you have, I'm going to put mine on low, and so 6 to 7 hours before I can have dinner. So very awesome. And it's that easy. It wasn't too hard, right? All right, so then I wanted to remind you just to exercise, take a walk. We'll have an adult handout on exercising, just tips that you can kind of go over. And go to Create Better Health Juab County Facebook page and keep active, like doing your yard work right now or going for a walk. And that's all I have for you today. So thank you for watching, and happy slow cooking from my home to yours. This is Laurie Bates.